In the next edition of It's About Money, my guest will be Christine Green. She's the managing editor of 585 magazines. Join us for the next edition of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and thank you for joining us. I'm delighted to have my guest today, Christine Green. She's the 585 magazine managing editor. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I'm so delighted. This is fun.
Yeah. So tell us about your background and what led you to having your position.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a roundabout story. My undergraduate and graduate degrees are actually in archaeology. And so I worked in the field and in labs for a little while. And then we moved to New York. We were at College of William & Mary in Virginia. And my husband and I moved to New York and we had a very tiny little baby. She was 10, 11 weeks when we moved here. And we came here because he got a job at SUNY Brockport. He's a history professor. So that was 24 years ago. And I became very busy raising my daughter, and then we had a son, and we bought a house. And when I was ready to get back to work, I realized that archaeology was not something I wanted to go back to, not because I didn't enjoy it. I really did enjoy it, and it was a real passion of mine. It's just life changes, and I wanted to see what was coming next. And so I started writing, first creatively, and then I began a literary reading series out in Brockport at a art gallery that is out there. At the time it was called Different Path Gallery. And so I just started a monthly reading series where I would invite writers from the area to do a reading, have a Q&A with an audience, and it became very popular over time. And then someone from the Democrat and Chronicle, an editor her name is Cynthia Benjamin, she no longer works there, she's on to different things. She reached out and she said, I heard about this thing you're doing. Would you be interested in writing a column? And I said, sure. And I had no idea what I was doing. But she really took my hand and helped me figure out what it's like to write a lifestyle article about the arts. And I knew a lot of people in the community. I worked with a lot of poets and writers. And so I did that for a while. And that lasted for, I want to say a couple years. And then in 2017, 18, excuse me if I can't remember the exact dates, the column was cut. And I was assured it wasn't me, it was them. But the arts often get cut when budgets come into play. So that was difficult. And at first I was pretty sad about that, but very quickly 585 magazine and Jane Milliman, the publisher there, she reached out and said, we got in touch and she said, let's have some coffee. And the next thing you knew, I'm writing the column for them about the literary arts and books and writers and readers in the area. And after a while, another editor came on and there was, just life went on. It was a few years. And then in 2021, the last editor was moving on to something different. And I just tossed my hat in the ring. And so that's when I came on as editor of 585 and 585 Kids. And then slowly over time, we picked up Upstate Gardener Journal. And we also published a magazine called the Bulletin of the American Iris Society. It's very specific. It's for the American Iris Society. There's a magazine for anything you can imagine. And so this is about flowers. So yeah, I manage those 4 magazines and that's where I am now.
Oh my goodness, that's an amazing story.
It kind of goes everywhere, right?
Yeah, well, but it's great because it kind of landed, opportunities kind of prevailed, presented itself.
Exactly, yeah.
Very nice, thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
So share with us, share with the audience how the start of 585, I know it was already there when you started.
Sure.
So give us a little history.
585 was started in 2013 by the magazine Buffalo Spree. So that's the glossy regional out in Buffalo. So for many years, so Buffalo Spree is widely popular in the Buffalo area. And they thought, well, we need to branch out into another city. So they started in 2013, and at the time, the first editor, I believe, was Mark Gillespie, and my publisher, Jane, and subsequent editors were part of the team of contributors and writers. And so that was in 2013, and then in 2019, Buffalo Spree said, it's for a variety of reasons, we're going to shut the magazine, just focus on Spree. The whole team really was in Buffalo. And that's when Jane Milliman, who is the owner and publisher, came in and said, no, we can't let this die. We need this in our community. So she bought the magazine. And then there was COVID. So she worked really hard through the pandemic to keep this going and to make it what it is today. And then, like I said, I came on in 2021, and I think we're going pretty strong now.
Oh, that's great. I was thinking of the Buffalo connection with 585. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
It's now Rochester based, but then you keep expanding.
Yes.
So that's really nice. So when you think about the future of print media, because it's available in both digital and print, right?
A little bit. I can tell you more about that.
Yeah,
so of course it's a print magazine. We're bi-monthly. We come out every month. So 6 magazines a year. And we do have a website where we post articles. We don't post everything. The real drive is to use the website for people to read articles, learn about events, but then drive people to support our print magazine, really. So that is really important that we try and maintain physical copies of the magazine for the community. I think people want that again. Sure. Even magazines like The Atlantic have gone back to printing monthly, and we're going strong. There are days that it's hard. Right during the pandemic, right after the pandemic, paper prices changed quite drastically, and this is for the whole industry. And digital is in our face constantly, and there's a lot of demand for digital, and we're working hard to meet that demand, but also trying to create a physical product. It's a piece, in my mind, it's, always relating it back to my anthropology and archaeology, it's a piece of material culture. Sure. And it is an archive of the community and the arts and the businesses in the community. And it's important that we maintain that as much as we can and encourage people to read the magazine and read it in physical form if possible.
Yeah, that's great. I can understand that. It's nice though to have the digital connection to kind of keep the viewers the readers engaged, right? Because there's always something going on. So reference back and forth, but you have the magazine.
Absolutely. And the Upstate Gardener Journal and our kids magazine, those are completely, you can get the entire issue online because those are free publications, and we want that to be completely accessible on all fronts. So anyone who is interested in gardening, any parent and child. So the kids magazine has content for parents, but also for children. I think a lot of people don't realize that there's coloring pages, there's dots to dots, there's stories geared towards a young audience for children for themselves to pick it up. So we want that accessible. So those are always available free online.
Oh, that's great. So it's really, in that case, that's supported by the advertisers then.
Yes.
In those magazines.
Absolutely.
The subscription.
Yep. Yeah. That's how we keep going.
Yeah. Very nice. That's great. It sounds like there's a lot of advertisers that are interested in keeping the publication because we really don't have kind of a cultural, social. Well, the City magazine does a little bit of that, but a little different with the profiles that you guys are doing.
Yes. And it's sometimes a struggle because advertisers, they want it. We have to work a little bit harder, and of course, I'm not on the sales team, but we work together every day. It is harder in the sense that there's always like, well, what else can we get besides a print advertisement? What's the digital aspect? So we work with them with social media, with website advertising and stuff as well. But yeah, we try and really sell the point that the magazine gets into so many hands that you want your ad in there, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, of course, and people want to support local as well. It's a local
Exactly.
magazine, and that's great. That's wonderful. So, the 585 find interesting people to interview and so on. And the one that I particularly like is I'm the board chair at the George Eastman Museum, and there was a feature article.
Wonderful!
That
Yes.
was beautifully written for Bruce Barnes, so that was very nicely written. How do you find the list of people to, like, for my show, I look at interesting people to interview and stuff.
Sure.
How does the magazine
A variety of ways. So one of the biggest ways, well, let's start at the beginning. At the beginning of every year, I create a theme for each upcoming magazine. And that morphs over time, right? Maybe, okay, we're not getting a lot of articles. We'll change this theme around. So I put out a call for pitches, and I have a pretty large group of freelancers. We'll send that out and say, hey, upcoming, we're going to be writing. So right now, our current issue is all about books. So several months ago, I sent out a call for pitches. I said, hey, writers, you're out on the street. You're out there working with people every day. What should we write about? So that's one way we get pitches or get stories. Another is citizens, just random people will send me an email, the phone will ring and say, hey, I know this really cool business, or there's this really fabulous woman doing really cool things, or did you hear about this nonprofit? And so I have this running list of ideas, and some of it are ideas that we generate within our office. An intern or myself will be like, there's a person that's just really interesting, or a project or a museum that needs a little bit of focus. And then I gather them all. Every 2 months I sit and I gather these pitches, and I shut the door and I just kind of go through and I see how does it all flow together? How can we make this flow together? What's missing? And then it's a constant process of going through that myself, and then working with Jane, my publisher, to make sure that we're on the same page. And then we meet with the photographers and the writers. And it's ever evolving. You'll be in the, you think a magazine is going to look a certain way, and then halfway through, a freelancer maybe gets sick and they can't write it, so I have to reassign it. And the way the new writer writes it is going to have a slightly different perspective. Or a story just falls through because we can't get a hold of the business, right? Or we're not getting phone calls returned. So scrap that one, pull another one in. So it's a lot of work. Yeah. That's the fun part. It's really fun. I mean, it's all fun. I mean, some parts are more exciting than others, but that kind of generative creation from nothing with this with 40 million emails and this spreadsheet that all these slashes in it, and notes and Post-its, to a beautiful magazine.
That's great.
It's still wild to me that we can get there.
Yeah, oh, it's absolutely lovely. I think that's great. We'll take a little bit of break from our show here, but we'll be right back. My guest is Christine Green, and she is the managing editor of 585 magazine and the other 585 and other magazines. So I'm really thrilled to have you here. We'll be right back. I'm Nannette Nocon.
Achieving my goals as an adult was challenging without a high school diploma. With the help of an adult education center, I finished my high school diploma, and it changed my life.
Oh my gosh! This yearbook is a testament to your accomplishments and how they have impacted all of us.
Getting my high school diploma made me feel like I can do anything. Now I can help the kids in my community achieve their dreams.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Nannette Nocon. It's about money. I'm excited to have you back here at our show. And thank you, Christine Green, for being here and being our guest.
Of course.
So talk to me first about, before we move to your interesting book, I want to learn about the diversity of local restaurants that are featured in the magazine, or at least in your website as well. So talk to us about what you think of Rochester's food scene.
Oh, Rochester's food scene. I mean, I don't think people outside of Rochester realize how diverse and exciting our food scene is. And we have a dining guide in our magazine that we try and change up every issue, with obviously taking out places that have closed, adding new places, and just fitting in places that maybe we hadn't really heard about before, but have been around. And the food scene here, there's nothing that Rochester doesn't offer in terms of food, and it just keeps growing in terms, and at all levels. We have these beautiful high-end restaurants that keep coming, and we have and keep opening up, and yet we also have these, you know, these great places to go and grab the hot dogs or tacos and
garbage plates,
right? I just recently had my first garbage plate ever for the magazine, the things you will do for the magazine. That, just wait till the May-June issue. So there'll be a discussion of my garbage plate eating, but that's one of it's so fun to feature. We always feature casual dining and fine dining, and of course the dining guide in the magazine, because people are hungry on a Friday night. They want to pick up the magazine and be like, where should we go? And I even teased my husband the other day. He said, where should we go to dinner Friday? And I said, you know, I know this great magazine. That's a whole list of places to go. Right. So yeah, I think Rochester, for a small city, there's so much to eat. You could just do an eating tour of Rochester.
You're right. I think there are eating tours.
I think you're right. Yeah. There are. So.
Yeah, which is nice. So yeah, it's great. I think it's wonderful that we have a lot of small restaurants, right? Rather than a lot of the big box. We're small enough that the big box restaurants tend not to come here. Exactly. But anyways, so you published a book, Sweet Tooth. Let's talk about that. That's your autobiography, right? About growing up in California?
A little bit, yeah. I would call it more of a memoir rather than autobiography. Okay. So it's a story. It's a short book, and it's a story in 3 parts. And it's a mix of poetry and short essay and some long essays. And it just deals with my childhood and then a brief time in my life right after my father passed away when I was 21. And then the third part is about kind of grappling with that and having children and having a relationship of my own and just coming into my own. So it is kind of what some people would call kind of a hybrid book. So it's a little bit, it's not a straight narrative and I was born and then I did this and then I went to college. It's more of a sensory experience and a picture of my life in almost like snapshots. A writer I very much admired. Her name is MJ Ayuba. She passed away a couple of years ago. She was a really prolific poet and professor in the area. She called my work. She said it reminded her of a photo album, she kept using the word snapshot. So it's more like you're getting a sense of what's happening, and then at the end you sit back and go, oh wow. I hope people sit back and say, oh, wow.
I have to pick up a copy of that. So it's on the internet,
You can get it from zaftigpress.com. So it was published, printed, and bound and designed locally in Rochester, which is fabulous. But it's also at local bookstores in Rochester, Hippocampo Books, Ampersand Books at Writers and Books.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Second Look Boutique in the South Wedge. Yeah, so it's out there.
Oh, great! I'll have to pick it up. I mean, that's how I guess it's my first time I hear of a hybrid book, so that's really fascinating.
Yeah,
but it makes sense, right? Doesn't have to be one straight. How was that experience for you? Did you work on a bunch of things at different times, and they kind of say, "I'll stitch this together"?
That's exactly what I did. Okay. Over the years, I would write a poem about this or write a little story about that. And I find writing about myself and my own life experiences easier than fiction. Now, a lot of fiction writers will tell you the opposite. I can't write about myself. I have to make things up. But for me, it's because it's what I knew and because it just seems so easy. I'm very much a writer of the micro, so I'd like to take a very small, even a small object, a small memory. I like to play with memory and be like, let me write about this memory and pull it out and what does it mean? And so I spent many years. Some of these are very not I mean, they're many years old or published in literary journals or magazines. And then during the pandemic, like lots of people were sitting at home, and I had been freelancing at that time too with 585, but with other magazines. And I said, I need something I can't, we're doing some phone interviews. It's just not the same. So I started to pull these out, and I realized, yeah, exactly. I need to stitch this together. And that was harder than you would think. Trying to figure out what to include, what not to include, and also what order, and what was the point, the kind of so what of it all. Like, what was I trying? What was the end story? What was it going to be? And so, yeah, and then I submitted for publication to a lot of places and got a lot of rejections, and that is totally normal.
I was going to say.
It wasn't the first time I'd been rejected in my writing. The first time I'd been rejected for a book, and the first one stings, and you cry, and you get really sad. Then you realize, okay, so this really big, Random House or whatever it was is not going to publish my book, and then you just keep going. And at one point, someone said, "What about a local publisher?" And I admit, I was like, a local publisher? Who publishes locally? And then I found a local publisher who is doing really great things, and I think more people need to know about them. Zaftig Press, really great local publisher and press and printer.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. What I love about the idea is when you were writing the poetry and short stories and stuff, I imagine that you were quite inspired when you were writing it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I think if there's a project, you kind of like, I got to toil writing about this.
Yes.
But then doing the different parts of your life is cool.
Yes.
I can't wait to pick up your book.
Oh, I can't wait for you to read it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. So let's see. So what's next for you? I mean, you do a lot of things, and it sounds like growing 585. But what's next? Because you've had some really interesting things that you've been doing.
Yeah. Well, right now, obviously, plugging away with the magazines. Personally, with my writing, I do have another project I'm working on, and it is different this time because I have the idea for the book before I have the book, right? Last time I had all these pieces and I put them together. So I haven't found a ton of time yet to work on it. And what I probably actually the right thing to say is inspiration, because you'll find the time if you're ready. And I'm not a lot of writers are like, I write every single day, get at 5 a.m, or here's how you do it. And that just doesn't work for me. I have a job, and I have a life, and I have a family. So for me, it has to be in very particular settings, and I have to have a certain nudging from the tickle inside my brain that will, that kind of wakes you up in the night or while I'm doing something else. A very, very good writer out of Brockport. Her name is Ann Panning. She is a professor at Brockport, and we know each other. She once said, I believe in an interview somewhere, that she tells her students to write about what you can't stop thinking about. So, and that has stuck with me, and I don't even know if she'll see this, but that has been very inspiring to me, because it's what is eating at you, it's what's in your brain or in your heart, what you can't stop thinking about, and you get it out. So
that's wonderful advice.
It is. It's great advice. So I have a book project. I already have a title, but I won't give the title away yet. Okay. Yeah. But it's going to be a different kind of hybrid book about, again, I don't even know if you could call it memoir, but definitely personal, about different things this woman has gone through medically over life. And it sounds very sterile, but it's not. Like, if everything from, falling and getting stitches when I was a little girl to ending up in the hospital with a very minor heart situation. How have those things affected my life? And then in the middle of it, you go through things like puberty and child rearing and menopause, and how does that all kind of play out? it's kind of a reflection on all of those different things that happens to a woman's body.
Yeah. To me, it doesn't sound there at all, because all the emotions that come through that, and reflections, because that's kind of a point where stop a little bit because something happened. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Think about
Exactly.
that. Oh, you're so inspiring.
Thank you.
So things that you're doing, it's great.
Thank you.
And I want to say that 585, I think, is a very important publication in our community for people to reference, and I love the food stuff that's there besides the people.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. Well, obviously, I think it's important, but I'm biased.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. It's all good. Anything else you want to share with our audience about?
Not right now. I just definitely want people to try and re-embrace print and to understand how much work goes into not just a book, but a magazine, even these small, you might see a small neighborhood paper. Mm-hmm. Every one of those things are artifacts of our time and of our community, and there's a lot of meaning in that. And so pick up a print magazine and share it with somebody, and pass it on, and read it, then cut it up and make a collage, send it to your mom, whatever. But we are so caught up in the digital world, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I'm right in the middle of it. That's really, really important. But I think we need to be grounded, particularly in the arts, in real life stuff. It's important.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I was reading somewhere that there's a surge in interest in kind of feeling the book, the paper.
Yes.
Young people are kind of going back. It's like those vinyl records.
Yes. My son, he's 20. He's got this stack of vinyl records. He's like, I got this great album, and it's like from Queen or Phil Collins. I don't know what like Led Zeppelin. And I'm like, okay, yeah, great. Even film, in Rochester, we have the Nitrate Film Festival, right?
Yes. Oh gosh.
That is one of my favorites. And it's different.
Yes.
It's different because it is a different media, and we just have to keep remembering that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you enjoy that. I love going to Nitrate Film Festival.
Me too. Maybe I'll see you there this year.
Yeah. Lots of people from all over the world,
Yes, it's amazing who comes here. And
Yeah.
people do not realize how cool we are to have the Dryden and Eastman Museum. I mean, it's an incredible resource.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Well, thank you for all that you do. And
Oh my
you for
gosh, thank
sharing.
you.
I can't wait to pick up your book and read about your stories and poems and all that. So thank you.
Thank you. This has been really fun.
Great. And thank you, our audience, for joining us. I'm Nannette Nocon. My guest today is Christine Green, who is the 585 managing editor, and lots of other things that she does, author, all those things. So thank you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Nannette Nocon.